Welcome to the Lighthouse Financial Advisors Money Over 50 podcast with Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Lighthouse Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50. Today's topic is mortgage repayments versus super contributions. Which one's in the red corner, Dallas?
So we've got a red corner versus blue corner thing happening today. The reason we wanted to discuss this is that this is something that is tossed around as a black and white answer for a lot of people. So you'll hear people go, which one is better? And like many things that people ask us, it's kind of one of those things that it probably sounds like we're giving a wishy-washy answer where we say, oh, it depends. So we thought to make it a bit more concrete today, we'd list some of the, the main criteria to think about when you're making a decision as to what to do with your spare cash flow. So whether you should pay more off your mortgage or whether you should contribute in super. There's five different questions or different things to think about that will determine which one is best for you.
Look, I think it's a good topic to discuss. Far too often in life, I find that people say, why not do both?
Yep.
Yeah, you hear that saying, why not do both? Now, in everything that we do, there's limited resources.
Yep. So there's an opportunity cost.
So time is limited.
Yep.
Money is limited.
Yep.
Yeah, if we had abundant resources, then we'd be able to do both.
Yeah,
however, what we're really, just keep in mind, what we're really discussing here or contemplating is for that sum of money, whatever that sum of money is.
Yes.
Let's assume it's the mortgage repayment or the extra mortgage repayment.
Right.
So the additional repayment. Obviously, you have to make the minimum at least. So it's with that additional amount of money that you voluntarily have to either pay off your mortgage or put into your superannuation fund. We're looking at the pros and cons of both approaches here.
And the reality is that even as much as I said, it's different for everyone. For everyone, there is a concrete answer. You know what I mean? Once we go through these different things, that we can crunch numbers very easily and work out one of these is financially better than the other one, and that's just the fact. So, as much as it is different for everyone. For everyone, there is a right and wrong answer. So, for most people, it's hard work saving money. It's hard work giving something up now to put you in a better position in the future. So, if you're going to give up $10,000 a year, $20,000 a year to try and put yourself in a better position for retirement, you want to make sure that you are absolutely getting the best bang for your buck, getting the best return on that money.
That's right. So the five variables to look at, Dallas.
I should introduce these variables because they're in my handwriting, so you'll probably stumble over. The first
I was going to say it's a little bit harder to decipher.
The first one is the interest rate. So obviously we're talking about mortgage repayments at the moment, and at the moment, mortgage rates are in the range of 3 to 4%. So that means that the return on investment of paying down that debt is not as high compared to if you've got a personal loan or credit card debt at 12 or 18%. You see, if every dollar that you pay off your mortgage, you're only saving sort of 3% interest on that or 4% interest on that next year. So basically, the lower your interest rate is, the more likely it is that you're better off contributing spare money into super versus paying more off your debt. So
if you looked at it purely from a return point of view, you would say as interest rates lower, it would therefore make it more, attractive to put that money into superannuation at a higher return. I guess the other side of that coin would be that you could make more headway at paying off your mortgage as well.
That's right.
Along with those, so I guess, and we'll wrap up with that. I'm sure. It's what's financially better to do. Will generally stand out.
Yes,
but
it's then a personal decision.
It's then a personal decision.
Yeah, that's right.
As to what you like to do.
I think the big one with the interest rate and bearing that in mind when we compare these things is that what people don't tend to think is if you pay $1 off a loan that's at 4%, whatever the interest rate is, that's effectively the rate of return that you get. So it's an investment at that rate of return, basically. So if your home loan is at 4% and you pay $1 off that, next year you don't have to come up with 4%, with that extra 4% to pay the interest on that bit of the loan. So it's no different. It's the same sort of comparison. And we'll talk about this later as the expected return, is that it's sort of fairly common sense when you break it down like that, is that if you've got a home loan that you're paying 3% off, and you can compare this, I guess, with loans that if someone has a credit card at 20% and a home loan at 3%, you're going to be better off putting all your spare cash flow into paying off the credit card before you make any extra repayments on your home loan.
Yes.
Because obviously you are going to pick up a lot more of an interest saving on that next year.
Yes. So with the interest rate, interest rates at the moment are sitting at around, they're in the 3 range. They should have a 3 in front of them.
Yep.
We're
probably really dating ourselves here. Someone will listen to this in 20 years' time and go, "What? What were you doing that?
How expensive was that?" Interest rates
they could be
-7%. If we extrapolate, which never pans out, but certainly. Certainly. Let's even assume, for the purpose of today's discussion, that the average interest rate on a mortgage today is 4%.
Yeah,
I think it's that's a good assumption.
I think you made a good point that with that as well, is that with all of these different criteria, different things to think about, is that it's a moving target as well. Is that if your home loan's got an interest rate of 3.5% today. It's not to say if we're looking at what's going to put you in a better position in 10 years' time. We don't know what your interest rate is going to be in 10 years' time. So there's a bit of guesswork involved in going, how certain am I that this interest rate will stay at a level that is sustainable?
Well, one of the great things here is that mortgage repayments are made monthly, so you get to vote every single month.
Yes.
And you get to vote which is the best strategy. And it doesn't have to be set in stone for 20 years.
Yeah, that's right.
So, you could start with, while interest rates are at 4%, then you could say, okay, well, we'll actually I'm putting this money into superannuation.
Yep.
In the hope of getting an average rate of return higher than 4%, of course, after taxes and fees and costs.
Yep.
However, if interest rates do go up, you can always change that strategy, and then opt to swing back to extra repayments on your mortgage.
I think that's. I'm just going to change the order of these around to move on to the second point, which is that when we're talking about contributing money into superannuation, a lot of these trade-offs depend on whether you have any availability to make contributions to super from before tax dollars. So I guess the second point that I would look at here is, or the part of how do you make this decision, is to think about, can I use before tax money to contribute to super, because that is going to change the dynamic considerably. So a lot of these other parts of this depend on, am I able to take before tax money and contribute into super, or do I have to pay income tax first and then make that contribution? Because as you said, with that, your return that you're looking at net of fees and taxes, there's also some potential tax savings in making those super contributions from before tax.
Look, that's a good. I think that needs an example, Dallas. So give us an example of that.
I was waiting for you to jump in with that, because you're the king of this example of. So in
do you want me to do
that? No, I'll do it now. I'll just regurgitate what I've heard you say 100 times. And so if you're earning $100,000 in gross salary, and your employer is making the standard 9.5% super guarantee contributions, they're making $9,500 as employer contributions. At the moment, the concessional contributions cap, or the total amount that can go into your superannuation fund from before tax dollars, is $25,000. So you would be able to put in another $15,500 of your before tax income into superannuation. So this is commonly what people do here, is salary sacrifice this via their payroll. So they could, for example, take the top $10,000 of their income, and they could contribute that directly from their via their payroll every fortnight or every week, whenever they get paid, straight into superannuation. That goes in. They pay a 15% contributions tax on that, but you don't pay your income tax on that money.
Yeah, so they get to use $8,500 in their super fund.
Yep.
So as they put that $10,000 in, the tax rate is 15%.
Yep.
They get to use $8,500 as the net contribution to their super fund.
And in that example, if they were earning $100,000 and they took that top $10,000, on that top $10,000, their income tax would be 39%. So they would only be getting to keep $6,100.
So the equation here, I think what you're saying is that from that $10,000 of before tax salary, if they were to pay that off their mortgage, they're only paying $6,100 off their mortgage.
Exactly right.
Because they're losing 39% in tax, or $3,900, leaves them with $6,100 to pay off their mortgage. Alternatively, they could put that money into superannuation and if they're underneath their allowable concessional contribution caps. And that $10,000 goes in. No income tax is paid. 15% tax is levied. But it's $8,500. So there's a what we'd call an arbitrage there in terms of you're getting an overnight return straight away. And the after tax money is $8,500 versus $6,100.
So you can see there where if you have the ability to do that for most people, and assuming that you can afford to do it and put it aside and not be able to access that superannuation, if you have the availability to do that, it stacks up it's pretty hard to beat that. You know, if you've got $10,000 and you can either have $6,100 go off your mortgage or $8,500 sitting in your superannuation fund, normally up to that concessional contributions cap limit, it makes a lot of sense to do that. So what we're looking at here is that when we talk glibly about contribute to super, there's really two very distinct types of contributions: before tax and after tax. In most cases, your before tax contributions, you are going to be far more advantaged, far better off taking advantage of that compared to after tax contributions, because obviously you're paying a lot less tax on the initial bit of your savings there. That ties into actually the third variable here, which is your marginal tax rate. So as we just said there, if someone's earning $100,000 a year and they're going to take that top $10,000 and put it into super, from $90,000 to $100,000, their marginal tax rate, or the tax rate they would pay on that top bit of their income, is 39%. So, but if someone's earning $20,000, they're basically paying no tax on any of their income anyway. So there's really not the same tax advantages on making those before tax contributions into super. And so the third variable to look at is your marginal tax rate. So how much are you earning? And that actually ties back into that point of how much have you got available under your contributions cap, because the more income you're earning, if you're a wage and salary earner, the more you're earning, the more your employer's putting into super on your behalf. So there's potentially less that you can actually take advantage of those before tax contributions.
So look, that certainly makes sense. So that there's for someone on a 39% tax bracket, then obviously the difference for putting that money into superannuation, assuming it's can be classed as a tax deductible concessional contribution, is a drop in tax from 39% to 15%. If they're on the tax bracket below that, which is 34.5%, it still makes sense to do that because the tax saving is
in most cases.
In most cases,
we find that anyway.
It's effectively. But in the tax saving, it's an overnight return straight away. So if you're cutting in your tax rate from 39% to 15%, it's an overnight return of 24%.
And we've talked about this before at length about a tax saving is the greatest. A tax saving is better than an investment return because it's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed. Where can you get a 24% guaranteed return? You can't. I mean, the guaranteed rate of return is about 2% at the moment, which is a term deposit rate for 12 months. It's in that ballpark. So, so tax savings to us are just
great.
Free money. As we said, we love free money here, and it is completely free money. And we see people not taking advantage of that year in, year out until they come and see us, of course, and then they take advantage of every single dollar that they can. a risk-free return of 24%.
It's pretty good.
Is
pretty hard to top.
Is just unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
That's right, and that's kind of why those concessional contributions are one of the first levers that we generally pull for higher income earners. And so to break it down, when I said that variable is your marginal tax rate, so the amount of taxable income that you earn each year, generally the higher that amount is, the higher your taxable income, the higher the rate of tax that you're paying, the better off you will be contributing to super versus paying off your mortgage.
Yep.
So the fourth variable there, as it relates to your loan, then is whether the interest on that loan is tax deductible. Now, for an actual home loan, for a mortgage that is borrowings to purchase that home that you live in, that interest is not tax deductible. But potentially, if you've borrowed against that property to invest somewhere else, that loan may be tax deductible. And obviously, as we just said with your tax savings, if you're paying a 4% interest rate and that 4% is tax deductible to you personally, that's a far more attractive proposition than paying 4% that isn't tax deductible, and you basically have to earn more money, then pay the taxes, then meet the interest repayments on that. I think I've covered that very neatly. You don't have to chime in there.
No, nothing to add.
Nothing to add. Right, Charlie Munger. So I guess the fifth and last variable to look at here is one that we've sort of brushed over a couple of times, which is the expected return on that money within your superannuation fund. And so this is kind of one that it's looked at as sort of outside of our control, and it's just a whole my super returned this much last year. The return on the percentage return that you get on the money within your superannuation fund is a function of how much of that is invested in cash, property, shares within there, and you actually everyone has the ability to make a decision to change that investment strategy, and that's one that I don't think we'll digress too far here and go into all the pros and cons of each of these. But if you are invested in a way where you're likely to get a higher return within your superannuation fund, then obviously there's a greater opportunity cost to not having more money inside your super fund.
Yeah, look, it's a. You said that you weren't going to digress, and I was at that very point thinking. The rate of return that you get is also a function of how patient you can be if you're not going to panic when the ensuing volatility occurs inside your superannuation fund, because when you're invested in market-linked things like companies and shares, those types of assets, then they will fluctuate up or down. So look, the benefits of the strategy could be unwound if you experience that volatility and panic at the wrong time, which means change the strategy at or near the bottom of the market cycle when things have dropped. So, look, if you can stick to, looked at some figures just yesterday at the returns of a high growth investment strategy through 2005 through to 2019 financial years, so 14 financial years. With the global financial crisis occurring in there as well. And the rate of return was 9.96% per annum after tax inside superannuation accumulation phase. So it already had the tax levied out of it, the earnings tax that is. Anecdotally, we would be able to say, okay, if you looked at this back in 2005,
and we're making this decision,
you would be far better off putting money into superannuation than you would have been paying it off your mortgage, because your rate of return over that period of time. I mean, mortgage rates were higher but over that period of time, but I'm going to say that the average rate of your mortgage repayment is in the 5 to 6% bandwidth. And ignoring the tax savings of actually getting extra money into superannuation versus paying it off your mortgage, the tax differences that we spoke about before, a rate of return of 9.96% is much higher than the 5 to 6% bandwidth of what you've paid on your mortgage over that stage.
And that's, I guess, one that I'd say with this variable is that, again, this is actually a lever you can pull. So it's not a set in stone thing of. And what I'd say, to follow on from your point, is that if we're doing this comparison and you go, oh, well, I've got all my money in superannuation invested in cash and term deposits, so the expected return on that's only 2 to 3%, I would say forget about doing this calculation of mortgage repayments versus super. The first thing you need to do is actually look at whether that is appropriate for you, because it probably isn't for most people.
That's right. I mean, because that's an available resource that you have at your disposal.
So that is a lever that you can actually pull while you're looking at this comparison, is to go, well, not only what is currently the expected return on the money within my super fund, but how can I increase that, and is that an option that's available to me? So to recap, I guess the 5 main variables that are available: interest rates. If the interest rates on that loan are much higher, then you're probably going to be better off making loan repayments versus making super contributions. The second one, if you are still able to make concessional contributions or before tax contributions to super, if you still have some availability under that $25,000 threshold, which currently is, you are likely to be far better off making those super contributions. If your marginal tax rate is high, then you're more likely to be better off making super contributions versus the loan repayments. If the interest on your loan is actually tax deductible, you are likely to be better off making loan repayments. And if the expected return on the money within your super fund is higher than the loan, the interest rate on your loan, then again you are likely to be better off making those contributions into super.
Yep. And I just wanted to add there as well, what we often see, so the type of person that takes advantage of scaling back on their mortgage repayments. Generally people that we see in their 50s, and we're meeting with them for the first time, and they still have what we would consider a prudent level of mortgage left. So it's not an exorbitant mortgage, but it's somewhere in the vicinity of $100,000 to $200,000 is generally the range that we see that you can take advantage of this. So,
and I think the one that we see a lot is with that kind of range of mortgages. If you look at again a 10-year time frame of when someone might want to retire, is that in most cases they're on track to either have the loan paid down in full or basically in full by the time they retire anyway. So the extra repayments, all that is going to do is pay that loan out before their retirement.
That's right. So often they're on track with the extra payments that they're making. And let's use $10,000 as an example. So they've got that extra. They're making an extra $10,000 repayment into their mortgage, on top of their minimum repayment. And they're on track to pay their loan out about 5 years before they wish to retire. What we look at, if they don't have the resources available to put enough into superannuation, we actually look at taking that $10,000, recommending that they go back to their minimum repayment. So instead of paying out their mortgage 5 years before they retire, they pay it out on the day that they retire. And that extra $10,000 goes in from the start to their superannuation fund with the tax savings.
So the tax savings on the money going in, and then the return on the money once it's within there.
On average, and really we look at it from a I guess a pragmatic point of view of saying, okay, in an ideal world we'd have $10,000 spare to pay off the mortgage and another $10,000 spare to put into your superannuation fund. It's not as I mentioned at the start of the podcast. We live in a world where there's limits to the resources that we have. So it's just a reallocation of your available resources to a more effective way to do that. So we're certainly not suggesting that you go out there and we certainly don't stop making your minimum mortgage repayment. We'll put that out there in case.
I feel like we shouldn't have to say that, but
you shouldn't have to say. But it's working backwards again. We'd love to work backwards here and say, okay, if we work backwards.
The beauty of this calculation is for people coming in to see us. There's a finite window of time, and so this is kind of where it's a very different calculation when someone's coming in at 55 and going, we want to work for another 10 years, because we can generally look at this and go, okay, in 10 years time you will be able to access all the money in your superannuation fund and you will want to retire about then, and we can kind of work on those figures. Whereas someone who's 30, we can do all these same calculations, but it just may not make sense for them to make the contribution into the super, even if it is financially better off, because they can't touch that money until they're at least age 60. Yeah. So this is why it's a great comparison to look at when you're in your 50s, because the thing that really holds you back from making those super contributions when you're younger is, well, number one, you can't access that money for a lot longer, and number two, when you're young, you don't think you're ever going to get old, so it's normally not as exciting. But with 10 years to go, there's a huge scope here to, as we've said before, it doesn't have to be a huge amount of available spare cash flow, but using it in the most effective way is vitally important for most people to get them where they need to be. And so it's just a simple matter of sitting down, as you said, working backwards and going, in 10 years' time, for someone in their exact situation, depending on each of these variables, where are they best off allocating those available resources?
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Lighthouse Financial Advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.